We'll start back at verse 1 again. So Jonah, chapter 1 from verse 1. The word of the Lord came to Jonah, son of Amittai. Go to the great city of Nineveh and preach against it, because its wickedness has come up before me. But Jonah ran away from the Lord and headed for Tarshish. He went down to Joppa, where he found a ship bound for that port. After paying the fare, he went aboard and sailed for Tarshish to flee from the Lord. Then the Lord sent a great wind on the sea, and such a violent storm arose that the ship threatened to break up. All the sailors were afraid, and each cried out to his own God, and they threw the cargo into the sea to lighten the ship. But Jonah had gone below deck, where he lay down and fell into a deep sleep. The captain went to him and said, "How can you sleep? Get up and call on your God. Maybe he will take notice of us, so that we will not perish." Then the sailors said to each other, "Come, let us cast lots to find out who is responsible for this calamity." They cast lots, and the lot fell on Jonah. So they asked him, "Tell us, who is responsible for making all this trouble for us? What kind of work do you do? Where do you come from? What is your country? From what people are you?" He answered, "I am a Hebrew, and I worship the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land." This terrified them, and they asked, "What have you done?" They knew he was running away from the Lord, because he had already told them so. The sea was getting rougher and rougher, so they asked him, "What should we do to make the sea calm down for us?" "Pick me up and throw me into the sea," he replied, "and it will become calm. I know that it is my fault that this great storm has come upon you." Instead, the men did their best to row back to land, but they could not, for the sea grew even wilder than before. Then they cried out to the Lord, "Please, Lord, do not let us die for taking this man's life. Do not hold us accountable for killing an innocent man. For you, Lord, have done as you pleased." Then they took Jonah and threw him overboard, and the raging sea grew calm. At this, the men greatly feared the Lord, and they offered a sacrifice to the Lord and made vows to him. This is God's word.
Much, Andrea and Amit. He just likes the screen time, I think. You might not know this about me, but I can do anything. Actually, specifically, I can do anything if there's a YouTube tutorial describing how to do it. My powers are unlimited. If there's a video tutorial, then the sky is the limit. If you want me to make sushi, remove stains, or curl your hair, or charge your car battery, write a poem, or build a cat castle, armed with just an online tutorial and an unhealthy, inflated sense of my own abilities, I can do it. And I know that some of you will be suffering under the same delusion, because we love these how-to videos. We love these tutorials, love someone to explain to us in 5 minutes how to do something, and then we don't need professionals anymore, because we've watched a 5-minute tutorial. Well, I've got good news for you, because tonight we're going to look at the ancient equivalent. We're going pre-video, which might be quite exciting for some of you. Strap in. We're going to see Jonah's guide to sharing your faith. And just a little disclaimer, he is potentially the worst prophet in the entire world. So tip number one, avoid it. Run if you must, but do not speak to people about God. You have got to get out of there. That is exactly what Jonah did. If you are new to the story, if either you weren't with us last week or perhaps it's the first time you've picked it up, you'll see that that's where we find Jonah. He is on a ship heading as far west as it is able for him to get, because God had told him to go as far east as he could get. And God had sent him to this great city of Nineveh, the capital of the biggest and the baddest nation in a big, bad world. It was a direct instruction, and Jonah had an opportunity to share God's message with them, and so he ran away. Tip number two, be unhelpful. Tip number 2, be unhelpful. Now, the storm hits. We read about it tonight, and it is of literally biblical proportions. In fact, it's so huge that these professional sailors are absolutely terrified. They know what this represents. They know just how bad it is. It's potentially supernatural, and so they get really, really practical. I hope you've still got the Bible open in front of you. If you do, then please flick down with me. Have a look at verse 5 that Andrea read for us. Verse 5 says, all the sailors were afraid, and each cried out to his own God. They threw the cargo into the sea to lighten the ship. Anything they could get their hands on that might be heavy, that might make them a little less buoyant, they threw it overboard. It was gone. Now, Jonah had an option here. He could have chipped in. He may not be a professional sailor, but I think he's capable of throwing something off a ship, even without a YouTube video. But he doesn't get involved. He completely ignores their efforts. Instead, he dives down below decks. You see, there's a real risk that if he helps, he might let on that God's people should show love and care to these people, and he doesn't want to be anywhere near that. No, instead, Jonah goes to sleep. Top tip number 2. Top tip number 3, do not pray. See, the sailors hit their religious phase at this point. You see, they were each crying out to their own God. More than that, if we carry on with verse 6, I hope you still got it there. It's the captain who goes down to Jonah, shakes him awake, and he says, how could you sleep? Get up and call on your God. Maybe he will take notice of us. Maybe. He's at that sort of pray to whoever stage. But Jonah's too smart. You say praying could show the captain and all those sailors that he really cares about them. In fact, it's worse than that, because he's praying to the Almighty. There's a chance that it actually might do some good. And if you look down, you won't find Jonah praying anywhere in this passage. That's top tip number 3. Number 4. Exclude people, exclude others. Now, this might not be quite so obvious, and that's partly because Jonah has worked so hard at this. He's really, really good at it. He has got such a hardwired, such a deep us and them mentality. It is tribalism, and it is solid in his psyche. It's a really sort of aggressive sort of nationalism. If we look down at verses 7 and 8, to have a look at that, you'll see that the story has moved on. The story has moved on. The sailors have cast lots. They're sort of picking names out of a hat, effectively. And out comes Jonah's name. So, of course, they've got some questions for him. What kind of work do you do? Where do you come from? What is your country? And Jonah's response, verse 9, bang, straight out the gate, is, I'm a Hebrew. Now, that wasn't the first question they'd asked, but it's certainly the first response he gives. It's the top of his list. It's the first thing on his bio when he introduces himself. I am a Hebrew. It might not be conclusive, but it certainly hints at an attitude that you'll see running through Jonah's story in this whole book. It's an attitude that says, Hebrews are over here and everyone else, well, you're over there, and I will not share my God with you. So you see, my tribe, I understand. I get you. I like you. But them, well, they're different. They're suspicious. And so Jonah's top tip number 4, they are excluded. Barriers up, stay hostile. Top tip number 5, do whatever it takes. Now what Jonah finally does is drastic. We can't be certain of his motives, what he does at the end of the part that we read. His final desperate act, though, is to tell them to throw him overboard. You see, he's at the point where tips 1, 2, 3, 4 have not worked. And verse 11, the sailors are still inquiring. The soldiers asked him, verse 11, what should we do to you to make the sea calm down for us? It's dangerously close to them asking about his God and how it is they might be saved. Now, Jonah could have said, oh, well, I will repent. Take me back to shore. I will pray to my God. I will ask for his forgiveness, and I will do what he has said. I will plead his mercy. But it's possible that he would rather drown than pray for salvation for himself and those around him. Jonah is an absolute disaster. He is a horror show. If I haven't been clear enough already, then let me say it crystal. Do not do any of this. Do not follow these tips. They are the polar opposite of everything that it should be to be God's people. Jonah is in an incredibly privileged position. He is a prophet. He is God's mouthpiece from a chosen people, Israel, who are in this covenant relationship with God. But he is so fiercely nationalistic. He's protective of what he's got. And so he's completely unable to accept a God who might want to show mercy to people out there. Last week, if you were with us, John told us to expect a God who would challenge us, who might cut across what it is we expect. Well, Jonah will have none of that. He will run, and he will even die if necessary. Please do not imitate Jonah. Now, it may sadly be that you've been on the wrong end of something similar, whether you are a Christian or whether you're still investigating things. Maybe this is all a little bit new to you. I worry that you might have experienced something a little like these sailors. I wish it were not true, but Christians today can be every bit as bad as Jonah was then. You will meet Christians who are disrespectful, who are careless, who are narrow-minded, and I'm really sorry. It should not be that way, and it can do tremendous harm. So people around us have got every right to call us out as Christians. If we are going to exclude others, if we do nothing to care for our community, if we never pray for the good of those around us, if we never share the message of hope, the resources that we have, well, it's the ship's captain, do you remember, who shakes Jonah awake and says, "How can you sleep? Get up and call on your God." And he has every right to call him out. In the New Testament, you can read verses like James chapter 2, verse 14. James writes, "What good is it? What good is it if someone claims to have faith but has no deeds?" We really need to hear this and take it seriously. Jonah's faith was no good. It was no good at all to the sailors around him. Now, a fire extinguisher goes without saying, I hope. This is meant to help. It is meant to help people in the most extreme of situations. But what good is it if someone claims to have a fire extinguisher but does nothing with it? It's no good at all. Jonah had a relationship with the living God of heaven and earth. He had a faith that was powerful and true, and he chose to do nothing with it. May it never be said of us that we could have helped, but we did nothing. We've really got to be on our guard for tribalism, for an attitude that excludes certain people beyond the limits of where we're willing to help. We've got to be careful of growing weary of doing good. In fact, that's why Abhishek so helpfully led us this evening in praying for some of these community projects. And it's wonderful. I'd encourage you to keep that up through the week, and maybe as you gather as a home group. But also for us on our front lines. The community work is not just the activities of the church, the organised stuff. Let us not grow weary of doing good. But it's really important that we do not end there, because suppose I wrapped it up. That might be nice for timing. But all we have is a nice list of what not to do. A nice list of what not to do. And some of you would go home feeling wretched. You'd feel terrible, thinking, through all of those times that perhaps you've been more unhelpful than you should be. Others of you will be utterly determined to go away and work really, really hard at this. In either case, that's really not what I hope we come away with from tonight. Jonah is obviously not a great example for us here, but I hope he's not merely a non-example either. I hope he's not just a cautionary tale, someone to be avoided. Jonah's biography is here in the Old Testament, like everything else, to point us to God who is in it all, God who is working through the storm. He's even working through Jonah's errors. The most amazing thing about this passage, what we've read, is not the storm, terrifying though it may be. It is not Jonah's rudeness. That itself is astronomical, but it's not that either. It's not even Jonah's ability to sleep through a hurricane. The most amazing thing about this entire story is that despite it all, the sailors put their trust in the Lord. They are saved. And it's the most remarkable and wonderful thing about this passage. Just a little technical note. When we read our Bibles and we find the word Lord written in capital letters, you'll see it through this passage if you scan down, if you've never spotted it before. That's our English Bibles translating the old Hebrew name for God. They're translating God's name, Yahweh. And it was given to the Israelites. It was personal. It was relational. It was his covenant name for his covenant people. Of course, there are other words for God. You'll find those in this passage as well. We're still in verse 6. You'll see that the captain uses the word, when he says God, that's the word Elohim. It's a more general term for God. But now, at the end of the passage, they call him the Lord. These are foreigners using his name. If you look down to where we finished, verse 16, they greatly feared the Lord, all caps, and they offered a sacrifice to the Lord and made vows to him. They are in a saving relationship with the Lord. It's unbelievable, and it is utterly wonderful. I hope that we go away this evening in awe of the God who saves. That's the hope for tonight. Of course, Jonah doesn't save them. He doesn't even help. He doesn't lead them along their journey of faith. We've been really encouraged, if you've been with us in the morning services, that God can work through the ordinary things, the ordinary preaching, the ordinary Christians that make up an ordinary church. And that's wonderful. But Jonah is not even ordinary. He actively sabotages God's mission. He tries to get in the way. And God saves these sailors anyway. Jonah cannot stop him. Jonah, who says, I am never going to go and share your message of hope with those pagans over there. Well, God shows his mercy to these pagans over here. I hope you, like me, find that strangely comforting. I don't know whether you've ever feared what you might do in your worst moments, you at your most wicked. What might you do? Well, a passage like this reassures me that God will not allow me to make a train wreck of his mission in this world. Jonah couldn't stop him any more than I could. Now, there's a sense in which we shouldn't be surprised that it goes this way, because this is entirely consistent with the entire Christian message. If we are Christians, what we're saying is that Jesus did it all. He was sent by God, and he lived a perfect life, and he died a death in my place, died for my sins. We bring nothing to the table. It was done and dusted 2,000 years ago. In fact, all I bring is my sin. It's a debt that must be paid. It's a need that must be filled. That's all I contribute. We are never, as Christians, merely asking God to help with our salvation. We're not just asking him to push us over the top. We can never come to him and say, I've done my best. I admit that I may not be perfect, so you help me out. This is a power pack. Some of you will have one of these, with to top your phone up when you're out and about. Really, really useful. Don't get the impression that you are a nearly full battery and that Jesus is your cosmic power pack. He does not top you up to full. It's not even that you're really, really low and that Jesus does an amazing thing. This is not how we understand grace. No, we are dead, utterly dead, and Jesus makes us alive. He does it all. God still saves today. His mission follows this exact same pattern. In God's mission to the world, it is 100% him. I'll say this kindly, but God does not need you. You are not helping the Almighty. We are empty vessels. We are filthy rags. We are dry bones, you'll read throughout the Bible. We are, God doesn't need us, but he absolutely loves to work through us. God has actively chosen to build and send a church. His whole purpose in history is to make for himself a people, to include us in what he is doing. So please don't be offended. It is much better to be wanted than to be needed, I think. I don't know whether you've ever had a phone call or a slightly awkward knock at the door, and you go to open it, and there's someone there, perhaps you haven't seen in ages, someone you really like, and your first thought is, oh, hi, how are you? It's so good to see you. Come in. You're keen to catch up. It'd be lovely to get an idea of how they've been, what their news is. And they say, oh, I was wondering if I could borrow a fancy dress costume for the kids, or a USB lead. And you go, yeah, sure, you can have my USB lead. But you were really hoping for a bit of a catch-up. You were hoping that they were there for you, and really they're there because they needed you, not because they wanted you. What an honor it is that God doesn't have to use us, but he will, and that he wants to. It doesn't mean you can't borrow my USB lead, by the way. If you do want to come and ask, I won't turn you away. We've recently had to switch cars. So now I've gone from having a petrol to a diesel. And I have to have my brain on every time we pull up in the forecourt. Need to make sure I put the diesel in it rather than the petrol. I certainly can't plug it in to charge it up. It doesn't get very far. It's just as true that our evangelism, our work of sharing Jesus with people, it needs the right fuel behind it. If you think that God needs you, well, I suspect we fall down on one of two sides. It may be that things will go wonderfully. Wouldn't that be great if people did become Christians? But then the result is pride in us. We might think, wow, I'm amazing at this. I've really got something. I should share with people some of my techniques. I might make a podcast. I might go on a live tour. I might have a Netflix series. People need to know how good I am at evangelism. More likely, things are going to fall down on the other side, and things will be really, really tough. And we might not get everything. We might not get everything right. We might be frustrated that I didn't get my testimony clear. I really couldn't answer any of their questions. I know there's some clever little diagram that I should have shown them, but I can't remember it. You might hesitate the next time to even strike up this conversation, knowing how badly it went. You might even find yourself giving up. certainly be tired of another sermon about evangelism. Now, if instead the fuel behind our mission is the belief, the knowledge, the sure and certain knowledge that God will do it and he chooses to use us, well, if God is utterly unstoppable and I'm privileged to be a part of that mission, then every conversation is different. That conversations are not a test. They are a privilege. We don't have to be as timid. We can be bold, knowing that we are on the winning side. There's nothing that can stop this. We don't have to be perfectionist. We don't have to wait till we think we're good enough to do evangelism before we got it right. We don't have to be perfect because we cannot mess this up by being a little unskilled. We can afford to have a go, and you might get knocked back. In fact, you might struggle for years and years and years and years and years. I'm not saying it's not a struggle and it's not difficult, but those years will not be years wasted. God does save people, is the wonderful truth. And when he does, instead we can just be amazed at what God has done. So pleased that he would use me in that and give all the glory back to God. Well, I don't know, but I like to imagine that that's something a little bit like Jonah felt. I mean, at the end of this book, at the conclusion of it all, I like to imagine that's how Jonah felt. Our best guess is that it's Jonah himself who wrote this book, of course. I mean, who else could write this account? Did he look back and rejoice that those sailors were saved? Did he rejoice that those sailors had been saved? Was he just startled that God would work even through him? That even at his worst, he couldn't stop God from saving people. What incredible freedom. What a joy and privilege it is to be his witness. Amen. We're going to, if I can invite the band up, we are going to spend some time singing. We're going to be singing praise to the God who saves, the God who is salvation. We're going to sing "The Lord is my salvation." Let's stand with the band and sing together.